So as a first-gen Hmong American, I have to say that being able to grasp both the Hmong and American culture all at the same time can get to be overwhelming at times. And there is still so much more that I would love to learn about our Hmong culture, because everything is just so fascinating. But at the same time, our culture has some of the strangest and most bizarre superstitions and urban legends. And this is not to knock on our culture in any way, shape, or form, but seriously, some of our beliefs are just ridiculous. For instance, one of our beliefs or urban legends is of the curse that was set upon us Hmong people many years ago. The thing with this story is that even many of our Hmong people don't believe in this so-called myth. I have Hmong friends in which have never even heard of it. And then some just say that it was a story that the elders would tell children to give them a scare. Some have heard different origin tales of how this myth has came to be. And the story that I'm talking about is a story about why Hmong people are forbidden from pointing at the moon. And I'm sure that many of you have heard of this story. The brief story that my parents had told me growing up was that many years ago, the Hmong people had done something terrible to the so-called Moon Lady. And so therefore, she had set a curse upon all Hmong people for all of eternity. To elaborate on the curse, Hmong people were forbidden from ever pointing their fingers up to the moon. And if you failed to abide by the curse, this would result in you getting a cut or slit on the bottom of one of your ears the very next morning. Now, all of this may sound a bit silly, I know. But let me tell you of my experience with this curse, myth, or urban legend, whatever you want to call it. So, when I was about 7 or 8 years old, I do recall my parents telling my brother and I of this tale of the Moon Lady. However, I thought it was the most ridiculous story as a child. So you know what I did that night? As we were in the car, driving home from the store, I saw the moon, and I looked over to my older brother and said, "Hey look, I'm pointing at the moon." As I laughed, I remember my brother saying, "You're not supposed to do that, remember?" But I just continued laughing, and I said that nothing was going to happen. The next morning, sure enough, I had received a small cut on the bottom of my left ear. After this, I never questioned the curse ever again. But now, let's fast forward a bit. If I recall correctly, I was about 24. I had just picked up my then girlfriend, who is now my wife, and we were headed out to the movies that night, over at what used to be Carmike Cinemas in Oakdale, Minnesota. As I was driving, I remembered on the news earlier that on this particular night, that the moon was supposed to appear extra large tonight. And so as it got darker, the moon came into view, and it sure was huge like they said it would be. My girlfriend was still on her phone and didn't see what I saw, so I was like, "Hey, look at how big the moon is tonight." She responded with, "Huh? Where?" I reacted quickly and pointed foolishly at the moon. "It's right over." "Shh." She asked me what was wrong, and I told her, "I just pointed at the frickin' moon, and you're not supposed to do that." So she questioned if I really believed in all that. And hell yeah, I did. But we continued making our way to the movies, And while doing so, I couldn't help but to think of the curse all over again. I mean, was it really real? When it happened to me at the age of 7, maybe I just imagined all of that. Or maybe it only applied to children. I'm not gonna lie. As a grown-ass man, I was a bit bothered and paranoid. And it really didn't help that we were headed to the movies to watch a horror film that night as well. As a child, the thought of this moon lady was a creepy thought all on its own. But now at the age of 24, things just hit a bit differently. Because now, as an adult, I felt that my mind was more developed. My psyche, my creative imagination, all of the ways that I had envisioned things now were in vivid detail. And so I couldn't help but to think of this encounter with this moon lady this time around. Like, was this moon lady really going to walk into my bedroom, slit my ear with the blade while I was asleep, and then just be on her way? I mean, how creepy is that shit, right? And then, how does this moon lady even look like? That's when your imagination starts taking over. I had conflicting debates that night over the whole ordeal. But surprisingly, when I got home, I had fallen asleep just fine. The next morning, I woke up and had forgotten about the whole thing. Everything was fine up until I was in the shower. And I was enjoying my hot shower because it was relaxing. But as soon as I had applied shampoo to my hair, it was then that I started to feel a small sting coming from the bottom of my left ear. That's when it all came rushing back to me. I quickly finished showering and got out to wipe down the mirror that had fogged up. Sure enough, after looking closely at my reflection, I now had a cut on the bottom of my left ear. I remember thinking to myself, what the hell? Like, how is this even a real thing right now? Seriously. Meanwhile, I still have not heard a real valid or legitimate origin story of how this curse came to be. And this is one of the big reasons why I have not told this story on my YouTube channel sooner. Because to me, it didn't seem like a great story to tell because I didn't have a solid beginning or a solid conclusion. All I had was the middle portion, in which was my own personal experience. So I guess we can call this a story/open discussion. Because in this case, I don't have an explanation as to why this curse exists within our Hmong culture. So I want to hear from all of you down in the comments field below. Because I want to know what all of you think about this urban legend or whatever you want to call it. And let's have a conversation. Maybe it's something that you've heard from your own parents and elders that you would like to share with us. And so we can all learn from each other. Because again, not every Hmong person believes in this curse. Some even said that if you don't believe in it, that nothing happens when you point at the moon. So it got me thinking that maybe only certain families, certain clans within the Hmong people were or are affected by this curse of the moon lady. I don't know. And so this is why I'm really curious to hear what you all have to say. And after my ear got cut the second time at the age of 24, I called my mom later that day just to get some clarification on this story. I was hoping that maybe she had withheld information from me as a child, and that now that I'm an adult, that she would tell me the full story. But unfortunately, she was unsure herself of the actual origins of this tale. So yeah, there you have it. This is just one of the many weird things that happens within our Hmong culture. And whether you believe in it or not, I dare you. I dare you to point at the moon tonight and see what happens. No, I'm kidding. Please, if you're Hmong, just don't point at the moon. This is Tales from the Abyss 87 speaking. Have a good night, guys. I'll see you in the next one.